What's good? What's good? What's good? We about to make the best baked macaroni and cheese, old-fashioned style. Ain't super cheesy, drippy, drippy. It's the way, old school way. When you bite into it, it tastes fabulous. Here are a few of my ingredients. Sit back, relax. Let me show you how it's done. So I want to talk about cheeses for a moment because this is a huge deal in my family. The type of cheese that you use, the quality of the cheese as in brand, as well as the type of cheese. So in my family, we are making baked macaroni and cheese. How my grandmother taught my mother and her sisters. You want as sharp as you can get. Now these aren't extra sharp, these are just extra sharp. But I got a yellow sharp and I got white sharp. And that gives it, you want to go as sour as possible because it adds, when it's finally cooked, it gives it a very sharp taste. The flavor is banging. Like mild cheese is not going to get it. Something about the sharpness of this cheese elevates the whole flavor of your mac. So it's a really big deal in using quality cheeses. And we use a little bit of Velveeta. I don't really like Velveeta like that. I use a very minimal amount, but I'll show that, and it is very expensive, so a lot of people leave it out. You don't want it to taste like stovetop macaroni and cheese, but I do throw some in there. It does give the cheesy taste to mac and cheese that makes mac and cheese mac and cheese. But on top of that, we have extra sharp yellow, extra sharp white, and everything I just said, I'm about to be a hypocrite, but I did add Colby Jack, the Stop and Shop brand, because I like my food with a kick to it. I like a little spice to it. So my family usually doesn't do it that way. They stick to the, faithful cheeses and call it a day. And I have the shredded Colby that I'm gonna put on top. So I use shredded as well as block cheese. I feel like block cheese sits better inside your mac when it melts and blends. You just have to make sure it cooks thoroughly. That can be a problem. If it's not fully cooked through, depending on your pan that you're using and the temperature you're cooking on, it can ruin your macaroni and cheese if you got giant blocks people biting into. So, all right, our cheeses are all chopped up. We have extra sharp cheddar, extra sharp white. We got Colby Jack, and we got a little bit of Velveeta. Like I said, I'm not huge on the taste, but you need the cheesiness of it, so I put a small amount. Next, we're gonna get our noodles ready. So first things first, you wanna get some water into a pot and let it come up to a boil before you put your noodles in. But we're gonna add some salt, and I'm gonna add some oil just so that the noodles don't bind together. It'll keep them separate. That's a good trick to know if you're making rice or noodles of any sort. Oil is a great agent that will make sure it doesn't stick to the inside of the pot. Also, we're not cooking it all the way through. We're cooking it al dente. That means it's somewhat cooked, but it's not already cooked because we're going to put this in the oven and let the noodles bake. So if you fully cook it, it's going to mess your mac up. So make sure it's al dente. So we're going to boil it. Maybe until it comes to a boil, I'm going to put the noodles in, and we're going to boil it for about 5 to 8 minutes. As you can see, we're bubbling good over here. So I'm going to go ahead and add my noodles. And remember what I said, keep it al dente, so you're not going to cook it all the way through. You still want it kind of raw. And we're going to let that boil and get a little bit softer al dente. I have 2 boxes if needed, but right now I'm just going to start off with 1 because once you throw them in the pot, they really expand very quickly. All right. I'm also going to take a stick of butter, not margarine, and melt that down because we're going to start we call it in my family cheese sauce, white sauce, but most people know it as a roux. I feel like macaroni and cheeses with a roux always taste better because it's not dried up and super stiff. I feel like people who lack roux in their mac, you can always tell because it doesn't even, the taste ain't the same and the consistency is odd. So we're going to do it with a roux today. So we're just going to take this and put this in the microwave for a bit until it's fully melted down, and then we're good to go. So we're going to take our mixing bowl and we're going to pour in the stick of butter, and I'm going to grab some flour and put that in because it's not a roux without flour and butter. I'm going to put in my seasoned flour I use for frying chicken and everything else. We're going to put that in there and get it stirred up some. Next, we're gonna add in 1 egg. Now, I was gonna just put it into the noodles because I like how it comes out better that way, but we're gonna put it right into our white sauce. What an egg is important for, and I know some people don't believe in putting eggs in theirs, it helps with the stiffness. You ever ate somebody's mac and cheese and it's completely slimy? Not slimy, but it's wet. It's there. The consistency is so runny. Ours is going to be a little more formed. Some people add more than 1 egg, but for now we're just going to add 1. I just want to firm up my mac because I like not a sponge-like mac, which my Caribbean people love to make in their restaurants. But we're going to use 1 egg, and it's nice if you do more than that. It becomes a different consistency that you won't really like. So 1 egg for now, and we're going to get our buttermilk ready next. Now, some people use sour cream, but in my family, to get that sour taste, we prefer buttermilk. It's gonna be kind of the same idea. I think sour cream makes your mac and cheese a little creamier. I'm also gonna put heavy whipping cream in this, and not too much of it because I don't want a creamy mac. And you'll see what I mean at the end. So I've transferred pots, and we're using some carnation milk. I've already popped that open. Nestle is very important. It helps with the flavor on a big scale. This really is what makes the cheese sauce taste as good as it does. I'm gonna use 2 cans of that. Here's our second. And then I'm gonna add some heavy whipping cream, not too much. Y'all, I really don't measure when I'm cooking. I just go off sight. Whipping cream. And I'm gonna add 1 more carton of buttermilk. So far, this is my second one. And then we have all our milks in there. We're gonna season with salt. We do Lowry's in my family, not too much. So we're gonna use instead of salt, we're gonna do Lowry's seasoning salt and some pepper. So we're just gonna take some Lowry's, not too heavy on it. Just enough, okay. And then we'll do some pepper. And then we'll do some paprika. Up to you if you want to use smoked. Same difference. Not too much. Just gonna give that a good stir. And one thing that's important, you can tell how your macaroni and cheese is gonna taste by your white sauce. So you want to take a noodle, take a piece of cheese, and take this sauce and make sure it's the sharpness, the taste that you really want, because that's exactly what your mac and cheese is going to taste like. So we're going to get our noodles ready. So I'm going to just check my noodles to see if it's al dente. And it looks like we're getting there. Okay. Yep, they're about ready. I left them on for about 6 minutes. Okay. Okay, while your noodles are in the sink, you want to make sure that they're completely dry because you're going to put them into your pan afterwards. But you want to make sure they're still smoking hot because that's when we're going to add butter again and add some onion flakes just for taste. That's what we do in my family because it's a nice little flavor. So as you can see, our noodles are still hot. You can add more noodles if you want to. But I'm not going to do all that because I think this should be enough. But while it's hot, you want to get another stick of butter, let that melt in there, and we're going to add some onion flakes. Make sure that it melts down in there good. Noodles are still hot. That's important. If not, I guess you can do like I did earlier and just melt the cheese. Or melt it in the microwave. Not melt the cheese, but put it in the microwave. But we're gonna get that melted and we're gonna add some onion flakes, and I'll be right back. See how that's melting down. You can add more noodles if you want, but I think we're good. While the butter is still melting, we're gonna add a little bit of onion flakes. Let me show you what that looks like. Okay. Not too much, but you wanna do it while it's hot as well so that it evaporates somewhat into the noodles. I'm not gonna go heavy on it. So my noodles weren't hot enough to melt all of the butter, so I took what was left out and I just reheated it so it can be melted. Okay. The onion flakes are in there. Not too heavy on it, but you need that flavor. Now we're gonna add our cheeses. You have white. Have plenty of cheese. You have your yellow. They're sharps. I'm gonna add all of it. Colby Jack. Velveeta. So I'm just gonna put all my cheese in and get right back. So we've mixed in our cheeses, and we're gonna pour in our cheese sauce or roux because it has all the seasoning and everything in it. But I'm gonna taste my roux just to make sure it's the flavor I want it to be before we pour it in. So I just tasted it. I'm gonna add some regular salt to it and a little bit of Tony's, and I think we're ready. So I added some of my salt and pepper. I'm just adding a little bit of Tony's, but the sharpness is there. Remember what I said, you want to take a piece of cheese, a noodle, and some of your white sauce and taste it and make sure that combination is hitting right. Yep, that's it. So now we poured in our cheese sauce, and you want to make sure it's dispersed evenly all the way throughout. You want to make sure your noodles are saturated. You want all the liquid to go through each noodle so that you have, when it bakes, the perfect mac. Watch. Okay, what may look soupy now is not gonna be soupy later. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna cover it up and we're gonna bake it for 30 minutes. Take it out the oven, uncover it, and add some cheese to the top for another 30 minutes. So I'm putting some Colby Jack on top and I'm gonna let it finish cooking in the oven. So I covered it in some Colby after cooking for about 1.5 hours, and I'm gonna put it back in the oven for another 1.5 hours. And the times may vary. You got to go by if it is done. And you can tell that. That's why I like to put the cheese on after I feel like it's almost there. At least halfway through. Dun 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 dun. Old school baked macaroni and cheese, y'all. It tastes better than it looks. You heard? If you like what you see, like, subscribe, and share. Be blessed.